Thank you, Leonardo, and all the panelists for such an interesting session. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage for the next session on the Future Caribbean Hackathon launch, and the moderator will be Graham. Please.
I'm just going to sit down. I don't know about you, but I've been standing a lot. We can do that. It's great to, this is where ideas that de-risk investment. There we go. But my name is Graham McMillan. I am the CEO of the IDB Group. So this is officially the launch of the Future Caribbean. This is officially the launch of the Future Caribbean Build-a-thon. And this is an exciting opportunity because Sustainability Week, as you've now learned, is really where the best of the private sector and the public sector come together, and where we develop solutions at scale. And obviously, our colleagues at IDB Invest finance a lot of the solutions at scale with partnership with commercial lending institutions and companies, but also, of course, in partnership with government. But these ideas that are being financed at scale have to come from somewhere, and that's what we're here today to talk about, is how do we actually come up with the next generation of new ideas. I'm going to share a little bit more about the Future Caribbean Build-a-thon. It's basically going to be an ongoing hackathon and innovation challenge, and my panelists will share a bit more about that. But today we're kicking it off. And we want to basically be able to cover some of the challenges that we're facing, some of the approaches that we can use to overcome them, and how do we drive this to basically a repeatability and replicability and scale. So with that, I'm going to do a very quick overview of my role at the lab to give you context of why this matters for our panelists here. So when we think about these pressing challenges and these solutions, we're trying to identify, meaning at the IDB lab and the IDB group, who are the entrepreneurs, who are the innovators, and what are the challenges that they're seeking. Part of the idea, though, is that we have to build the ecosystems that support how these ideas go from concept to execution, and what are the institutions that are necessary to help nurture them and build them, whether they're accelerators and incubators. So I think there may be a continuum that we're going to talk about here, and I'd love for you guys to walk me through that. But essentially, bringing these ideas to form, but they have to be investable for the lab. Ultimately, we have to basically place capital, ideally pre-seed, Series A to Series C. Then that becomes part of the conveyor belt that goes to IDB Invest. What we're doing here today is really talking about where do the ideas come from, and we want to make sure that they're addressing the challenges that we see in this region. So with that, I want to introduce our panelists, and I'm just going to go by name, and then you're going to do your deep dive on your bios, if that works, okay? So Lily Dash, of course, is our co-founder and CEO of Acti Advisors. Now we have Maria Sarifica, if I'm pronouncing that correctly? Sarifica, sorry, my apologies. Mark Castleman, and then last but not least, Lynn Dye. These are the panelists that are going to tell you about what their companies do, their backgrounds, and their bios, and are going to tell you a bit more about the Build-a-thon that we are launching here today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to each one of you from my left all the way down the road to just give us a little bit more about you.
Hi, good afternoon. Nice to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Lily Dash, and I'm co-founder of Acti Advisors and Future Caribbean. And my background is in law, it's also in tech, it's also in Web3 and crypto, and now we have this Build-a-thon that's come along in the last 8 weeks pretty quickly. But I just want to explain really, just to give an overview of what we're doing. So the Build-a-thon is a global agentic AI Build-a-thon. Agentic AI Build-a-thon. It's global, meaning it's open to all teams all around the world.
So it's not just a Caribbean?
No.
Okay.
The challenges are Caribbean challenges, right?
Global solutions for the Caribbean.
It's global. It's a hybrid. So we've got 10 tracks: AI for food security, AI for finance, AI for blue economy, AI for disaster coordination. I won't go through all, but you can go to futurecaribbean.com, and that will really help you to just get through this presentation. The really cool thing about it is we have you guys as partners, and have been so incredible in the formation of this. This is why IDB is so important, because I've ongoing discussions with Siobhan at IDB over years, right, months, for ideas like this to come around. Then you combine it with what we're working on in California in tech. But we have a company, Acti Advisors, that's based in California that advises global tech companies. Mm-hmm. So innovation happens at the intersection of two different worlds. We took that world and we're taking this world, and the Buildathon is live and kicking in a big way.
Now.
In a big way. We've just launched it. Applications just opened, but this has come. I haven't done one pitch. I don't even have a pitch deck, because I haven't needed a pitch deck to raise the capital for this. And private sector have come in for all the cash prizes. We have incredible compute, like publicly traded compute companies that have onboarded the compute. And the way that it works is, so we're going to have a four-week application process, right? So anybody can come around and apply. They can be sole founders, they can be working in teams. Then we're going to get all the ideas, and we're going to get what their capabilities are. And then we're going to give 50 teams for 3 weeks a significant amount of compute to build these agentic AI systems in these areas. And the really cool thing about this is, again, I come back to innovation doesn't happen in isolation. It's a cumulative endeavor, like the global approach, right? So if we have somebody in Pakistan or the Ukraine or Africa that can solve for these problems, similarly, if we have someone in Georgetown or Bridgetown or Kingston that can solve for these problems, and maybe we can start to pair them up as we move forward, right? We have a world-class Acti. Bill's not here, but Bill Tai, who's founder of Acti, he's one of the best venture capitalists in the world. He was the first check on Canva, first check on Zoom. He really knows how to kindle fires, right? And knows when there's a fire that could start. And I mean, I'm feeling it with this, right? The timing is right. We're certainly on a wave, and the force of nature is behind us, as we can see with being on this stage right now, right?
You want the energy outside, right? I mean, all you need to do is go outside and see the Atlantic and the energy right there, and it just kind of, that energy, I think, is coming into this space for all of us.
Yeah. Okay. So one last thing. So because I might not get back to it, the prizes on this are 50,000 cash, a significant amount of compute, basically whatever you need to build, and then the grand prize is you get to present at the New York Stock Exchange to a incredible global panel of investors, all expense paid trip to New York City for these teams, sponsored by Book It over there, Lindai. And so that's my start. But I know we have so you can go on to the next one.
Well, that's amazing. Mark, tell us your story.
I won't tell the whole story, but what I will say is I've always been a builder. I'm a managing director at Intel, and I run a group that's called BMG, where we create business models for customers. So if a customer is trying to figure out what the application is they're trying to pursue, then we invent that with them and create go-to-market, product, the entire plan around it. So that's been what I've been doing for the last 30 plus years across many different businesses, and was a startup founder, built a lot of companies. Many of them failed, and raised a lot of money and lost some money along the way. So there's a lot of up and down through this build cycle. And I have a degree in architecture, which is really kind of strange. So, been a builder the whole time. So I love this topic. I love the idea. And I think one of the things that I would just say very briefly is that AI is a huge accelerant to all of these kind of modeling approaches that you can imagine. So it's driving out the moats and the complexity, and allowing anybody to get in and find and discover and surface a solution very quickly. So I think what we're going to see is a massive acceleration of problem solving, and that in and of itself is a sustainability feature, because you take a lot of friction out of the machine and suddenly things get solved faster, quicker, for less money, et cetera. So the whole system is accelerating very quickly. So I always advise people, dive in, unlearn what you learned or what you thought you knew about how systems work, and and be open to looking at how the systems will work going forward. And then I think that you will see solutions emerge much more quickly than before.
I love the architect. I actually was going to be an architect too until I realized how
You should be
damn
glad
hard
that you weren't. It's a frustrating experience.
We'll trade notes on
let me
that afterwards. But thank you. Maria, please share your story. What brings you to the stage?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Lily. And I'm a CFO of two companies. The first one is Umedics, which is a telemedicine, teleradiology company based in the US, operations in the UK and India. But I'm also the CFO of Acti Global. And Lily mentioned that Acti Global is one of the supporters of the hackathon, and we're a sponsor. And Lily and I are also together in Acti Advisors. So we have a lot of worlds overlapping, and with Bill Tai as well. So Acti Global is an interesting kind of component to this because we actually produced Extreme Tech Challenge back in 2014, and we ran it until it became its own nonprofit in 2020. But the lessons from Extreme Tech Challenge, which became one of the biggest tech competitions in the world, all the wisdom and all the data and all the processes that we learned to do a competition will now be downloaded to Lily and the hackathon and this build-a-thon, and we're very happy to support that. So just as a brief example, the Extreme Tech Challenge had thousands of applicants, and so we learned how to basically intake the applicants, because that's the first thing. And then you have to really build an ecosystem. It's VCs on one side, it's sponsors, it's the applicants, it's the judges, then it's the venue and the production and the budgeting. And all these have to come together seamlessly. In our semifinals, top 10 companies went to the CES, pitched at CES, which is one of the largest consumer technology trade shows in the world with 100,000 people. And the top 3 got to go to Richard Branson's Necker Island, where we had the finalists. So initially, we were modeling it like a Shark Tank, and they have 10 minutes to pitch. And so the top 3 went to Necker Island, and from there, many companies emerged that basically got the help from the community. And ACTI, by the way, stands for athletes, conservationists, technologists, artists, and innovators. So we are a nonprofit, but we are really a community, and Linda is part of the community, Lily's part of the community, Mark Castleman's part of the community. So we really bring capital and connections to the founders. That's what they really need, capital and connections. Everything will follow from that. And these days, what we're really seeking now is creativity, because as Mark said, it's really easy now to build the tech part. So the challenge is going to be the solution part. And that's what the hackathon is trying to build, is identifying companies to build the solutions. Everything else, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier. Mark can say, we've come a long way to building an app or a company or a tech or a product. And these days, I don't want to say anyone can build a company or a tech, but it's so much easier, and Mark can attest to that. So that's why I'm here. I'm happy to help with judging, advising, supporting, financial. I have a financial background. I've been in corporate finance for over 20 years, and sustainability. We exited a company with renewable energy company. Now, the mission of Acti Global, actually, one of it is ocean conservation, and we'll be talking about that in the vertical. But thanks for having me.
Lynn, why did you first, of course, share your story, and then tell us why you joined this community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lynn Dai. I'm CEO of a company called Book It. Been in the Acti community for over 10 years. And, when Liddy, we build next-gen travel and reward systems for some of the biggest companies in the world, for American Express, for Princess Cruise Lines, for Hyatt Hotel Group, all-inclusive collections. So we understand travel very well, right? So, and when Liddy brought up this idea, I got very excited for a couple of reasons. The Caribbean nations, for some of them, travel and tourism is 25 to 50% of GDP. It's a huge component of the national kind of income, right? So the challenge is really like there's really two platforms, right? Like travel booking is kind of a duopoly that's run by Expedia and Booking. And like I got very excited because AI is like the first time in 20 years there is a way to potentially disrupt and have the local businesses keep more of the money that consumers are spending. So that's one. And number two is this is something that is going to take a village. Caribbean challenges should be on the world stage, so that's why we kind of brainstormed this idea really and worked on it for weeks and weeks, and then basically have this opportunity to fly the best teams in the world that is coming up with a great solution to pitch at the New York Stock Exchange, right? Like arguably the biggest place for where capital and innovation comes together. So just very excited to support and be part of this journey.
Well, Lynn and Maria, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. We're going to pivot to the Build-a-thon challenge and some of the verticals and the elements of that. And I think you're going to both, Mark, you and Lily, going to describe with a little more detail what the Build-a-thon looks like. We talked about some of the elements, the time frame, but what are some of the challenges that you foresee being
so
solved?
it's really interesting. We haven't launched the site. Only a few people in our ecosystem have seen it. They've been working on it in the community. But we're going to go public today, and we're public here. But it's been really interesting to see what the top tracks are, right? And the top track for the last 6 weeks has been finance. So the Caribbean, I'm from the Caribbean. I was born actually on this cliff, right? I was born like 5 minutes down the street on this cliff.
Amazing.
So I was born in the Caribbean, but I'm also of this world, right? So I really care about the Caribbean. And we're so fragmented. We're fragmented, the finance, we pay for it, quite literally. Every time I need to, we spend 5.9% to send a payment from Barbados to Jamaica or Jamaica to Guyana. I mean, the math is not mathing on that, right? We can create, like now with agentic AI systems, we can create like 4x networks of exchange, and it's very interesting to see what's coming up like with stable coins. Crypto was built for this moment, right? And so that's one, right? Can we create a network throughout the region that is a liquidity network that works, right? And can we get the best teams and the best talent that work in China? Like I got a developer in China who worked at the largest exchange in the world, Binance, and she was like, wow, this is incredible. This is an incredible opportunity. I want to come and bring my team to build in this, right? And again, or another one, like simple, small, medium-sized businesses. In the past, in the Caribbean, in a St. Lucia or a St. Vincent, the math or the juice isn't worth the squeeze to go for somebody to manually go through applications for a small, medium-sized $5,000 loan. But when you can start crunching data like cell phone data and bills and all of these things in seconds, like Mark, the other day, we did a podcast, and he was like, the really interesting thing about AI is we can bring time down to zero. And what does that mean for economies? What does that mean for companies when you can bring decision-making down to zero? And what does that mean for the Caribbean when you can bring decision-making down to zero? Like in the past, the simplest applications would cost us millions of dollars. We might pay for them, they get here, and we realize that they're a round peg in a square hole, or a square peg in a round hole, right? How many times does that happen? Again, back to what I learned from Mark a few weeks ago in Miami on a podcast. He was like, now we build for community, right? So we can custom make applications for community. It's no longer you have to mass SaaS, hope that the application works, try to fit into a Salesforce, or try to do something big that's going to cost $3 million. You can build it now. So, I mean, I think I'm so excited about this. The community the volunteers have been coming on board. We did a little pre-launch last night, and we had people from Jamaica and Grenada and Trinidad just fly in just to be a part of it, and just to help with like the social media and the graphics. But again, right? The Caribbean is a complex challenge, right? I would say one of the most complex challenges in the world, and that's why it makes it so exciting for some of these tech innovators around the world that they can come and work on a challenge as complicated as this. And one of our sayings is like, if it works here, like if you can make it here, and you can make these agentic AI systems work here with a complexity, like man, they could work anywhere. And so hopefully, we end up back where we started at the New York Stock Exchange with one of these awesome companies. And while we're doing it, we can help transform a region.
It's we have a little bit of a discussion section towards the latter half of the session, and I have a lot of follow-up. I have some existential questions to follow up on here. But Mark, maybe walk us through, so like, how does the process work? So you got all these teams,
I'm glad
and
you asked
ideas,
that. First of all, I'm definitely a process guy. I'm a systems guy, and so my brain, as an architect, like I walk in, I start removing the materials from the ceiling to see like what's the structure behind it, and so I tend to do that with business model formation, and so I think that first of all, there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of opportunity, and individually we may have passions for solving these things, and so. The beauty of AI is that you really compress time, as Lily was mentioning. You get all of the information is available to you immediately. And so what do you do with that? And that removes a lot of ambiguity out of what the solution is, and now you actually have to go do it. So you can get to action faster, and you can iterate 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 times. And so I think the last study I read that the average large-scale model has an IQ of like 180 or 200. So if you imagine that you have, 1,000 partners in your deal, your company, your solution, working with you to help you solve a problem, the likelihood of it getting solved is very high. So once you have that model, that framework, that construct, you now have to go do it. And so the doing is a human reality that is getting out there and doing it. So as Lily and I talked about on this podcast, in some way AI makes us more human because the action becomes more important. And the thinking is also very important, but it's done. So now we have to go do stuff. And I like that. I like that aspect of it. So I think that in certain areas of the world where doing matters, then that becomes your key differentiator, and it's very valuable. And so folks that do are getting a lot of attention. Hardware markets, computer hardware markets, physical activities are becoming more and more valued, and digital is becoming more and more accessible. So that accessibility is spreading it out to everyone, and the differentiator is the action. So I think that that's the fun part of the building.
This is going to be I'm going to pivot right into the Q&A at this point, because I think that you got to kind of roll with what the energy brings, and I think for Lynn, you, and for you, Maria, you've founded companies. Did you find them with the intention to be AI native companies? No, right? You were trying to solve a problem. How do we avoid over-indexing on using the approach, meaning the tool of AI and all of the models and the data that go into it, to being the path, as opposed to still going back to what is the problem we're solving? That's kind of what the Build-A-Thon is about. The AI is just the enabler. It's not the solution in and of itself. How did you approach that in your own entrepreneurial journeys?
So one of the examples, we're actually working with a company now that started as an AI company. They said, we're going to be an AI company and we're going to do X, Y, Z. But what happens throughout the journey of the company is they actually then start to test the product with the customers, the users. And the users actually then change the path of the founder sometimes, or the product. Because, like I said before, you have to solve for something. What are you solving for? And maybe your first iteration is you think you're solving for this. But then your users and your survey, when you do product development. Your users are saying, no, we don't want that, we actually want this. And so you have to shift, and that's what Mark's talking about is, now you have all the tech, everybody has the same tech available. So it's really, how do you use that idea of solving that particular problem uniquely? That's why I said creative was my third C, creative. Now, creativity it's actually a juxtaposition. As we are more technically enabled world, as technology rises, creativity has to rise as well, because that's the mind that the LLM doesn't have. The LLM is just composing all the words and ideas and knowledge that the world has, and then trying to figure out in a pattern that makes sense. It's not creative. AI, the LLM is not creative. So when people think, oh, AI is going to take over my job, it's going to take over the artist. No, our mind and our creativity, our spirit, that AI is not touching that. And that's actually the hope for the transformation. And innovation, we're so passionate about innovation, ACTI Advisors, is because innovation is transformation. It's what can transform economies. It's what can transform the Caribbean. It's really the fastest way. So if we want to transform anything, whether it's the economy, it's food insecurity, it's digital finance, whatever the problem is, it's innovation.
And yeah, Linda, has it fundamentally shaped how you approach building your company?
Yeah, our mission is very simple, right? It's always like, how do we build next generation system for kind of travel rewards, right? I'm personally like a points and rewards nerd. We built the entire, but the technology had to disappear for the end consumer. So we built our entire stack is already on stablecoin rails since 2018. Okay, we never talk about it. Consumer using MX Travel doesn't realize everything is kind of automated through tokenization already, right? Like payments is already easier. AI is the same thing. AI is something that should be very easy for consumer to access and understand without having to be like, okay, this is specifically an AI product. It should just be a product. This is just how I book travel. This is how I arrange my vacation. This is how I plan my activities. So, and we, as a company, we basically like, if we are going to build AI product for consumers, we had to adopt it internally, right? Like our development team each have anywhere between each developer have like 2 to 5 agents running at all times doing different tasks. And like our development process has changed, right? Nobody got fired, people just have more to do, because now like a great developer is going from writing code to planning and reviewing code. So, and that actually double, triples the output. So that allow us to actually accelerate the company and what we build.
This is going to also be a confessional. I'm totally freaked out by everything you guys have just talked about. I'm supposed to understand everything that you've just described. I mean, I get the passion and the sort of alignment to solving the problem. That makes the compute though. I'm like, I know what compute is, but like I know what that much of that means. How you value compute. Like, it seems to me the value proposition here and being able to access that compute is profound. It's a huge value proposition here.
Huge.
Huge. And how do you value that relative to what I'm traditionally used to is mind-boggling to me. I think the thing that I would love to hear from each one of you in this process is the intent on solving the problems is there. How do we help kind of make this owned by the community too? Yeah. How do we make it so that Barbados has a perpetual build-a-thon? Yeah. Right? I mean, you have a vested interest in this.
We want to do these all the time. We want to advance the culture in this direction. This is the first of one of its kind, and it's the bet. Like, I couldn't dream of a better team. We've got Intel sitting next to us. We've got the biggest, the founder of one of the founding team members of the biggest tech challenges in the world. They've deployed $5 billion, raised $5 billion for their companies. It's the largest. And then we just got a partner last week, DMZ, who's like second runner-up to Extreme Tech Challenge. They've done $4 billion. They're out of Toronto. And even though I'm sitting on the stage with the best, right? And we've got New York Stock Exchange, this is a community endeavor, right? We have to work together as a community to advise teams, to mentor teams, to get close on these solutions, to design solutions. We've got the tech, but we have the creativity, and we have to build in that regard, right? And that's very important. So I'm asking everybody in this room, if anybody resonates with this and wants to come on board, you can go to futurecaribbean.com. I put my personal LinkedIn button right there, big and bold on the bottom of the site. So you can message me directly, but we're looking for advisors, partners, companies, ecosystem partners. We've been talking to, in the last 3 days, 3 governments have contacted me to say, hey, how do we get involved, right? Yesterday, the head of the World Food Program was at our launch. He was like, I'll sign up to be an advisor. I have all the data. I have a lot of data, right? So we need those, we need IDB and institutions like IDB and the large corporates that are here, and we need private sector who have challenges, that want to solve challenges, and we need local talent. We need, one's potential, this is an Actai quote, comes about when it engages with another. When I engage with Mark, when I engage with Maria, when I engage with Lynn, when I engage with James, I transform,
You're forming an edge connection.
Exactly.
See, I do know something. Because that is an edge connection, right, Mark?
Yes, that's a edge intersection. So the other thing I would say is that, from a business modeling perspective, you think what's happening is that, compute used to be clustered, and it used to be aggregated, and it used to be centralized. And we used to rely on that to solve some kind of local problem, which is kind of difficult if you think about it. It's very far away. But what's happening is that compute is getting disaggregated more and more and more and more, and it will eventually permeate just about everything. So there will be available compute in many, many, many more places, and that inherently becomes more and more local and more accessible. And again, I'm huge into this kind of time system problem where it removes space and time, and you can solve problems faster. And the folks that see that future system as the way to do that will be able to deliver solutions very quickly. And I think that is an enormous opportunity because it's available to everybody. It's right there. It's very close at hand. So creativity is everything. The creative human that can discover and surface the solution, and use the tools available to them they are the transformers. They are the people that are going to change for the next generation. It's very exciting.
It reminds me, there's a gentleman by the name of D. Hock, who's often regarded as the founder of Visa, an organization I know well from my own past, and he framed this concept of the chaotic organization. If anybody knows anything about it, I strongly suggest you researching it because it really talks about, in many ways, Mark, what you just described, where there's loose organization, and it's actually very freeing. And if you think about the edge interconnections, or I called it edge connections, but you had a different term for it, but it's essentially how the relationship in a network. And it's fascinating because that's what the Caribbean is, inherently. It geographically is in many ways like that. So it seems to me that this technology and the compute and the decentralization of it, the networking of it, is profound, and it, in some respects, lowers the cost and democratizes its access.
Metcalfe's law. The value of a network increases, is squared increase in value by the number of connections. So
say that one more time so everybody.
A network, and this goes for
not
humans.
Moore's law, Metcalfe's law?
Metcalfe's law.
Okay.
So he invented Ethernet, and so Bob Metcalfe. The value of a network can be calculated as the square of the number of connections. So if you just simply think about your own human existence and you go create more connections, each time you add one of those connections, you square the total value. That's the value of your network. So every And it's because of the layers of connectivity. And this is not a theorem. This is sort of a mathematical fact about network value. And so, to your point, she connects with me and I connect with this person. Yes, it's a connection and intersection, which I use, but it's a fascinating reality and it's available to everybody.
Amazing. I've never heard of Metcalfe's Law, but that's a huge takeaway, I think, for all of us. It's why we're here in Barbados. It is why the network matters and the emotional intelligence humans require to interact with other humans. I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to end with one takeaway that if you're in the audience, you'll remember, oh, that's what Lynn said. That was Lynn's message, his gift to me. So do rapid fire, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So Lynn, we'll go this way and work across.
Yeah, I think we want to work with the community. We want government and private sector participation. So please go on the website and join us.
Takeaway, if you're a founder, we're here to give you capital, connections, but you have to supply the creativity.
Be creative and take action.
Join us.
With that, I want to thank the panelists. Get involved, go to the website, and many thanks for your passion and energy.
Thank you.
Hello. Please, those that can stay, this is the last session, but we are just going to go straight into the next session of the day. And I think we have a treat for all of you. And I have a very easy job today, which is to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Mr. Arminio Fraga. Arminio is